This is Surrogacy Unwrapped. Today's episode, the impact of mental health in a surrogacy journey.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Oh, I'm muting notifications. Sorry. How are you feeling, Kristie?
Doing okay.
Good.
Living life.
Yes.
How are you tonight?
Oh, hanging in there.
Very good.
We kept saying it felt like a Monday today.
It did. I was listening to I have Sirius XM and they were like, it's the Mondayest Tuesday ever.
Yes, it sure was.
I'm excited about today's topic. Obviously this is your bread and butter, bread and jam. I don't know, your thing that you like, but I also have a psych major and
Yeah.
I enjoy discussing all of these things when it comes to mental health. And I think it will be very helpful for those who are already in the process and those who are considering it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something that a lot of people don't fully understand in
Mhm.
surrogacy and really get why it's so important or
Yeah.
what, because mental health already carries such a stigma. So mental health and surrogacy, people are assuming it's stigma related, and really it's not.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Well, welcome to Surrogacy Unwrapped with Kristie and Mariah, your hosts. I am the case manager for Family Choice Surrogacy. And Kristie, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yep, I am the surrogate coordinator with Family Choice Surrogacy, and tonight we're going to talk about mental health and the various roles that it plays in the surrogate side of the journey, but also the intended parent side. And just it's a lot. It's a lot to think about and to handle. And as we were just saying, not everybody fully understands the emotional roller coaster that one undergoes during this surrogacy process. And so we just kind of want to take a few minutes here to unpack it a little bit and talk about both perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Mariah, I would like to kind of start right from the beginning when it comes to our mental health screenings.
Sure.
I think maybe it's probably more well known that the surrogates undergo a mental health screening as part of their process prior to getting matched.
Sure.
Maybe not everyone knows that the intended parents also undergo some form of a mental health screening as well. So could you kind of explain both of their screening processes and why they're important?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we know and we'll continue to talk about tonight, surrogacy is an incredibly demanding process, both physically and emotionally, and so just every form really. So it is very, very much. You guys are going to hear my dogs bark. I always have to give the disclaimer. I'm sorry. It's the time when everybody's walking, so they're very active. Um, so yes, it's undergoing a mental health screening is vital for the surrogate. So that way, one, she fully understands the process and she understands how much support she'll need. And then she goes through an actual screener, an assessment that's administered by a mental health professional. And it is specifically for figuring out if there are any maybe concerns, undiagnosed issues that could be underlying. There's a lot of factors into it. And actually, the way that it's set up, it's kind of set up to trick you into telling the truth about yourself. So it's kind of an interesting, anybody
It
can
is.
Google it, but it's an interesting process. So super important that she undergoes that and fully understands exactly what the process is going to take from her. And then with the intended parents, that one is much more of like a consult. We call it a psychoeducational consult. So it's really providing education surrounding the process, making sure that they understand the emotional demands that it will take from them, and how much this process will really require from on their end.
Yeah. And some things that we've both been a surrogate, and what I remember from my consultation when I was being screened is the mental health professional, like, going through, what is your support in your household like? What is your relationship with your family, your growing up history, like that kind of stuff. Again, just making sure that you have a solid support system throughout this entire process. They also talked about things like where you stood with termination and what you
Yes.
thought the afterbirth experience would look like for you and your family. Like it was very involved.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, it's not meant to try and disqualify you, but it's meant to educate you and to really help you think about all the things that could come about when it comes to the mental health part of this journey. It's very insightful. And I will say the most common reaction is surrogates are really nervous when it comes to going into the screening. And then after the evaluation's done, they're like, that was so helpful.
Yeah.
And that wasn't anywhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be. I learned so much.
Yeah, I think it's that test anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Like anytime you're being tested, it doesn't feel good. And especially on something like your mental health, like
Yeah.
how do we actually know how great we are at that?
Exactly. Okay, so as we know, and as we already said, and we're going to keep on saying, surrogacy brings on so many emotions. So, what kind of feelings is it typical for both parties to experience throughout the journey?
Yeah, so I mean this can vary, of course, from person to person and the relationship, all of those things. It also can depend on, your support system. So starting with surrogates, depending on if they have a partner, they will probably feel a lot of different things. Excitement, proud, really so much waiting, and so much waiting. And sometimes that's actually very, very frustrating because there's not a lot to do. And you'll check in with your case manager, like, hey, I still haven't heard anything. And it's like, yep, we're still waiting on the clinic to finish reviewing records, or we're still waiting on who knows what.
Hmm.
So it can be a lot of, it can also almost create some like anxiety there because, hey, why am I waiting? Is something wrong? Because that's kind of
Right.
where our mind goes when we're waiting extended periods. Um, but then you get into like the IVF process, they begin injecting hormones. And so there's hormonal shifts and everybody reacts differently. There's, someone I know going through the process right now to become a surrogate. And she was like, wait, I don't remember how I was on estrogen. What is the common estrogen side effects? She
Mm-hmm.
posted it on her social media. And the range was like insane. Some people are
Yeah.
like, I love being on estrogen. Some people are like, worst drug ever. And so it truly just depends, which is not very helpful in this context, but just knowing that there will be hormone shifts.
Yeah.
Um, and then as you are pregnant and carry a pregnancy, your hormones change. And then when you deliver, there's this just drop off of hormones, as
Hmm.
well as the breastfeeding if you continue to pump, hormones that come into play. So there's so
Yeah.
many things that can really alter how you're feeling, and in ways that you might not have ever realized you would feel that way.
Hmm.
Um, and including grief after birth, delivering a baby and feeling not anything for the baby usually. I don't think I've ever actually heard that one. It's more so the relationship with the intended parents and feeling that void because now they're parents and they're focused on their little bundle that you brought into the world. And you're like, wait, what about me? We were best friends. And so that can feel very harsh immediately after. So, and then with intended parents, of course, um, there's so much, excitement and like hope, but also very cautious. Sometimes we
Yeah.
see with intended parents, they don't actually want to get close to their surrogate until their surrogate has confirmation of pregnancy. And
Yeah.
that could be because they don't want to get attached. They might have done this once or twice before with different surrogates and had their heart broken.
Hmm.
So that can be really difficult. And then there's this aspect of a loss of control, right? Like
Yeah.
it's essentially all of us are surrogates, or all of us who have been surrogates have children. It's a requirement to be a surrogate. You're imagine giving your child to somebody else for 9 months and saying, "Take care of my child, please."
Yes.
And you just have to trust that they're going to do that. And you get updates when you ask for them, but like you don't really know what's going on. So, um, that's a very difficult aspect to kind of deal with as intended parents. And then, really, something that I love to bring up with intended parents is that postpartum depression does not always have to happen to the birthing person.
Mm,
It can, but it also can happen as a new parent. You can
mm,
have, some postpartum depression after you get this baby that you're, supposed to be so grateful for. And oh, wait, maybe I'm not so grateful right now. Maybe this is really, really hard and I'm
yeah.
struggling. So, really kind of drawing to light that actually, I've seen postpartum screeners given to intended parents,
Mm-hmm.
and they scored on it actually pretty high, as well as this happens with dads too,
Yeah.
for the birthing person anytime, but dads can also have postpartum depression and they didn't birth a child either. So
That's a great
those
point.
things are important to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really something that I like to highlight is, two things can be true. It's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason.
Yeah.
You can experience both joy and sadness or heartache, or maybe you're an intended parent who just got a baby and you're mourning and feeling sad for your previous life in which you had so much freedom and so much ability to do things, and now you can't because you have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to kind of balance the duality of those.
I love that. And that is a great cliche to remember because sometimes it's hard to realize that you can feel two emotions at once and it's healthy and normal.
Yeah, absolutely. And they can be completely opposite, conflicting
Yeah,
emotions, but they could both still be present.
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so how important is it for both surrogates and intended parents to have that strong emotional support system? Again, I feel like you hear this more often on the surrogate front, like it's really pushed, it's part of our requirements to become a surrogate. You have to have support, support, support. But what about those intended parents?
Yeah, so I'd say it's probably the most important piece of a journey, in the like kind of mental health side of things, is having a strong support network. Making sure that you have, hopefully your family's on board, they're prepared to support you, they're prepared to like be there for your highs and lows. If the intended parent, if there's two of them, that they're in a good place and that they're approaching this with a healthy mindset and understanding that things can go wrong or can be bumpy or can go not as expected. Of course, we hope that every journey is easy and just smooths right by, but
Yeah.
that doesn't always happen. So, being able to have people that you can rely on and um, really understand. I saw I think it was a TikTok yesterday that said something along the lines of, friends who support you through the IVF process are the best friends because they are willing to be canceled on or deal with your mood swings when you're on meds for the fourth time. And there's
Mm-hmm.
just a lot, and it's so emotionally demanding and draining that you need to have people that can understand when you're like, hey, I can't show up for you right now.
Yeah.
So having that emotional support, having family, hopefully, or friends, um, is vital. And I mean, at Family Choice, obviously, we have support groups, and
Mm-hmm.
we
For both
have,
sides, IPs and
yes,
GCs.
yes. So we have virtual support groups, we have online platforms, we have surrogate mentors for every surrogate. They have a mentor of somebody who's done this before, and isn't a case manager or something like that. Then they have their case manager and you, and like they have we have a plethora of support, which is not the case for every agency, but
Right.
just ensuring that you have people that you're comfortable with and being able to show up and
Mhm.
like ugly cry on their couch with.
Yes. And
Yeah.
like recently, I've been seeing, Leah's been posting once a week to both our surrogates and intended parents, like additional outside resources for support.
Yes.
This week I saw she shared about different podcast opportunities. So I think that's amazing. Just finding all the different avenues that you might feel safe and open to plugging into to get
Yes.
that support that you need.
Yep. Yeah. I think, it's so easy to get hyper fixated on all things surrogacy, right? Like,
Hmm.
and you want to read the books and you want to hear the podcasts and you want to do all the things. And that I think is so helpful when you can find these resources that just make you feel really seen
Yeah.
and like, oh, wait, I'm not alone in this, because it's not common that you're going to go talk to somebody down the street who is also going through this process.
No.
Yeah.
Another thing too that I wanted to add on to that, again, more towards the side of the surrogacy, being a surrogate, just from personal experience and as a coordinator, is, surrogates will say, well, how does my support system or maybe my spouse in particular need to support me? Like, it's not going to be our baby. What is their real role in this? And I said, frankly, they need to support you like they would have if it was your baby.
Mm-hmm.
You are still physically going through a pregnancy, just like you physically went through the pregnancy with y'all's own.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to be there for you emotionally, mentally, physically. If you need help with appointments, childcare, etc. Any way that you felt you needed support in your own personal pregnancy, I want that to be replicated, even that this child is not yours,
Yeah.
because it's still the whole process.
Yeah.
And the journey, in my opinion, is the same, regardless that you're not bringing baby home.
Yeah, your body still goes through the same exact physically demanding, emotionally demanding process. And listen, I am all for, there's no reason we should not be cooking these people food and dropping it off at their door after they deliver on both sides. Intended
Yes,
parents should have a meal train, surrogates should have a meal train. They
absolutely.
shouldn't have to cook for the first 2 weeks after
Mm-mm.
having a baby on either side.
No, everybody's recovering and
Yes.
being thrown into something new potentially, or even if it isn't new, if they already have children, it's a new baby,
Yes.
and it's
It's a new
exhausting.
dynamic.
And so it's a big change across the board. And I
Hmm.
agree. Like, support those people in your life.
Yeah,
Take
absolutely.
30 minutes to get them a meal, and if you are not cooked in, like, cooking is not your thing, get them a DoorDash.
Yeah,
It goes a long
absolutely.
way, and it'll be greatly appreciated.
Oh, absolutely. I think, yes, 100%. Food is my love language, so like I'm
Same.
biased, but yeah,
Same.
feed the parents, feed the
Yes.
surrogates.
Yes. All right. So coming back around to our hormone discussion,
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that that impacts mental health, your hormones, and the
Mhm.
changing of hormones throughout this entire process. So especially for surrogates, but also emotionally for the intended parents who are going through potentially their own hormonal roller
Mhm.
coasters, maybe in a different way. Can you kind of talk about, again, both sides, how those hormones are going to be playing a factor in this journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I think we probably ad nauseum at this point have talked about surrogates are going to go through IVF, and every clinic has a different protocol. And also, every cycle has a different protocol because sometimes they try a fully medicated cycle and it doesn't work. And then we go to a modified natural and it doesn't work. And then we go to a natural that's not really a natural and it does, so who knows? And it's probably the biggest bane of every surrogate's existence when the clinic puts them on birth control because we all hate birth control. But you have to go on it because it helps control your cycle. But man, how many times have I heard birth control makes me crazy? Like it
Hmm.
just turns me into a different person. And so it's very difficult to be given these medications that change who you are and you don't have any control over that. And then you feel crazy because you're like, why is this happening to me? Why am
Hmm.
I whatever is happening? Um, and so those shifts can be really hard. Allie, sorry.
It's really okay.
Those shifts can be really difficult and they can be a hard transition into them and out of them. And so, again, just making sure that you have people to talk to if you are really struggling, that you have in your contract a mental health stipend. Hey, we need to make sure that you have access to a professional if it gets to the point that you need one, because guess what? Everybody at one point in their life needs a professional to help them understand
Hmm.
things, especially if mental health has not been something that was talked about in your family or that you don't have. It's something you have to learn how to do and take care of.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So if you've never been taught strategies of how to kind of work through these things, then it's like it's expecting a baby to know how to walk when they've never even crawled. You
Hmm.
can't do it. Um, so sometimes you just need even a session or two. It doesn't mean you're going to be in therapy for the rest of your life now. Maybe you
Yeah,
just need a few sessions to get some tools in your toolbox.
love that.
And same with intended parents, right? Like, who knows? They could be going through their own set of things. Intended moms could be doing multiple egg retrievals.
Mm.
She could be going through another IVF cycle herself, and then she could be struggling with the fact that she really wanted to carry the pregnancy and couldn't, and that's really a difficult thing. And then it's hard because it's this balance of like, I want to show gratitude to my surrogate, but at the same time, it's breaking my heart that I
Yeah.
couldn't do this. And so that can be hard for
Hmm.
parents to really navigate. So maybe they need some help. Maybe it's harder than they thought. I've had up recently in which, an intended mom was just really didn't expect it to be so much harder than she thought it was going to be. She really thought she was going to be fine. She was like, it's okay. This is just our route. And then once her surrogate got pregnant, it was like, oh, I was not expecting this.
Yeah.
So, just ensuring that, again, you have that support. If you need help from a professional, that you have a professional that you can reach out to, and that you also understand that these are feelings that you are not that feeling. It's just a feeling that's moving through you, and it's just feel it, welcome it. Maybe it needs to be felt for a moment and then let it pass. You don't have to become that feeling.
I like that. I like that a lot, and a great visualization
Yeah.
of just that was great. What are your tips to navigate a good relationship between both intended parents and surrogates?
I think that it's one of these things we say all the time, is communication is just key. Making sure that one, expectations are set from the beginning. If I could tell you the amount of times I talk to surrogates, I talk to intended parents, I ask them their match preferences, and they're just so excited to match that they say, we're open for whatever. I'm open for anything they
Whatever
want.
they want.
Anything they want. I'm fine with that. If they don't want to have a relationship afterwards, I'm
Fine.
totally fine with that. And then it gets halfway through a pregnancy in which they maybe had a longer journey to get there, and then the relationship isn't as great as they thought, and they're like, well, I really thought we'd be closer. And it's like, girl, you told me you didn't care. So I really wish that I could stress to surrogates and intended parents, you have got to tell us what you would like. I understand that it may not happen that way. We can't control that, but you
But
have
in your
got to
deepest of
tell us.
souls, what do you
Yes.
think you want? If it
Yes.
was dream world scenario, not what they want, what do
Yes.
you want? So then we can make
Yes.
sure we're aligning this.
Yeah, because otherwise then we're, really stuck because we match you with, and if you have open matching preferences, then cool. We've got a wait list that'll forever be growing because there's always going to be more intended parents than there are surrogates. So,
Yeah.
I wish that people would come forward with their expectations at the beginning of the journey. Hey, in the ideal journey, this is what I would like. I would like to be best friends with my surrogate. Or I really don't want to be best friends with my surrogate. That's totally okay too, because there is a match for that.
Sure.
So
I believe there's a
clearly,
match for everyone. It's
yes,
just a matter of finding it. But I agree.
yes,
And the more honest you are with yourself, and then the more honest you are with us, it just goes a long
better
way.
chance for success.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, you know, talking about things like how often you guys are going to be checking in during the journey, what kind of updates feel comfortable, and then talking about how are you going to handle sensitive topics. If we always match on termination preferences, of course, we hope that that never comes up. But if it does come up, we never want it to be the first, second, or third time it's been talked about. We want both of you to be on the same page, totally understanding of what's going to be happening, what it's going to look like. And I think that's another really kind of key point is that people don't fully understand termination. They think it's really black and white, and it's not.
Yeah.
So making sure that everybody feels, heard and valued, and like what they say matters in it, and that they align on that. That's really, really important.
Yeah,
So
and even I always during my match preference part of my conversation, I'm like, I'm gonna, give you these points that we're gonna talk about because if you've never been a surrogate before, it's really hard to know what's an important match preference
sure.
when you don't even know what you should consider.
Yeah.
And so we have, a list of things that we try to help prompt the conversation to help get the brain juices a flowing to think
Mm-hmm.
about what is it that I'm looking for in an IP relationship.
Yeah.
And then I will tell them like if what I'm asking you doesn't make sense, talk to me, stop me, let me explain it more in detail because there could be multitude of interpretations of what I'm asking, and I want to know what you thought I asked and what I meant and what we can put in the middle. And then it's not black or white.
Yes.
I have a whole massive box that I can type all your details that if it doesn't align with my statement, I
Yeah.
want to know. I want to know what is going to make this relationship work well for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think if you have all of that and you're very clear in your expectations and you have great communication and you have an agency facilitating who is good at what they do, then you're much more likely to have a successful relationship and journey. And, if things do come down to it and you still need some mental health help, you have those resources available.
Agreed. I agree. I feel like we didn't necessarily set up a talking point for this, but I think it's important and kind of in line with this section we're here at right now, but having group counseling.
Yes. Love
I
this.
think
Love this topic.
I think I've had it in both my journeys. I'm
Mhm.
not sure if you had it in yours. Not
Yep.
everyone does. But what would you add on to that?
So I actually did a mediation in mine, and it was phenomenal. We had some things that were kind of missed. I did an independent journey. This is why I work for an agency now. And my journey was still great. I want to full disclaimer, loved my journey, wouldn't change a thing. Very grateful for how it went, even with the mediation and the hiccups that we had. But yeah, we had to get a mental health professional involved because we were not seeing eye to eye, and I recognized that both of us were too emotional and too biased to be able to reach a common ground
Hmm.
on our own. And I was pregnant, very pregnant, and I knew that that was playing a factor, and I knew that she had a lot of um, trauma from like the things she had been through and getting to where she was, and she was having responses and responding from a place of pain, which is totally understandable.
Hmm.
And I knew that we could not get where we needed to on our own. So, yeah, we had a mediation and then we went back again afterwards and just had like continued mediation. It was like group counseling. It was
Yes,
awesome. I loved
I
it.
love it.
Yeah. How was yours?
So mine was prior to starting anything. So it was part of
Okay.
our, I had my individual screening. They had their individual screening, and then to like solidify our match before going into legal and such, we did our group psych session evaluation. I loved it. I'm a big lover of counseling and therapy and all the things, and anytime to talk about feelings and emotions, and then throwing in the people that I'm about to do something extremely intimate with.
Yes.
Loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's such an
Loved it.
important point is that, sometimes, actually, a lot of the times you're matching with these people and you don't actually know them. You
Yeah.
don't know them from Adam. Like they are
I
who,
read a profile and
yes, and
had a
had a
dinner with
match
them.
meeting. Yep, exactly. And so, how do you actually know and how do you actually ensure you're aligned? So, it's the new ASRM guideline is
Yeah.
that there's individual screenings and then there's a group one after matching, and I love it. I think it's great. And I love that they talk about the big things like termination and ensuring that they're aligned on support, making sure that the partners are on the call and saying, hey, you're going to have to help,
Hmm.
right? So that way there's no missed like cues there.
Yes.
So I agree. I think that group counseling is
Yeah.
phenomenal.
I
And
just feel like having an unbiased opinion, some person like a mediator, just that person there to ask the hard questions and
mhm.
then help you to navigate. Like, I don't know, sometimes it's hard for me to get all my thoughts in line and to say what I want to say. And I know what I mean, but it doesn't always want to come out crystal clear. And so for her, the provider, to be able to say, like, okay, I see and hear what Kristie's trying to say. This
Mhm.
is what her intent is, or, the intended parents across the room when they're, saying what they're saying. It just makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
um, I loved it. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that that is the new like requirement. And I think it's going to really go a long way with helping to make
Yes.
sure that these relationships moving forward definitely are rooted in the right process of that communication and boundaries and preparations for this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, anything we can do and really we should as an industry always be moving forward to make things better, and this is just part of it.
Agreed. I think it's great. Great
Yeah.
change. Okay, Mariah. So, what are some emotional red flags that could indicate someone may be needing some extra help when it comes to their mental stability or support? And this is, again, both sides of the party here.
Sure. Great question. Emotional red flags. I love this term. Um, well, I would say if you're as a surrogate feeling, you do a lot of preparation to make sure that you understand it's not your baby. You're not going to feel attachment to it. Now, everyone's different. You never know. And I think I've only actually seen it one time where somebody said they felt sad about the baby. And that actually came as a surprise to her, if I remember correctly. And I didn't know her personally. I think it was a post in a group.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so if you're starting to feel like you might have some attachment feelings towards the baby, you need to go talk to someone right away. That needs to be addressed before you get farther into the pregnancy because it's not going to get better and it needs to be talked to with a professional to help you kind of navigate that because it may be coming from a place that you don't understand. And once you kind of work through that, it could likely resolve. So if you're feeling any kind of emotional attachment, if you are feeling any like, depression symptoms, you know, not feeling like you want to do things, if you are sad all the time, and, depression is kind of one of those things that's stigmatized and doesn't look the same for everyone, but signs of depression are hopelessness, um, not, I always say if you can't find the energy to brush your teeth, you need help.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I see a lot of people is like, I don't even want to brush my teeth. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if you're there and you're in that place, you're in the trenches, that's okay. It's not forever. It's not
Yeah.
permanent. And there is help that can be had. So if you're feeling, super sad, if you're feeling really hopeless, if you're feeling no emotions, that's a big one as
Yeah,
well.
detachment.
Detached, yes, absolutely. So if you're feeling, if you're not feeling, then yes, you need to go talk to someone.
Yeah.
Or if you're postpartum and you're having a really hard time. Um, Allie, the dog at the window.
And
Um,
maybe you can't even vocalize what emotion you're truly feeling. You just know this doesn't feel like me. And you don't know what that is or why you feel different. Again, we just talked about a whole slew of reasons that you could be feeling different than your normal self.
true.
And so anytime that doesn't feel comfortable or you're feeling any strange way, seeking help from your support system, seeking help from a professional is the next best step. And
Yeah.
again, if you're with an agency or even if you're probably independent, you can have this in
Yeah.
your contract, but making sure that you have it set up in your contract for the ability to seek that mental health for those sessions to be included a part of your benefits package is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And, something that I like to point out for anybody who's delivered, this is my doula speaking, is that, if you have just delivered the first couple weeks, sadness, weepiness, that's totally normal. That's called baby blues and
Yeah.
it's to be expected. If you start crying for no reason, yep, that's baby blues. We
Mm-hmm.
totally expect that with such a dramatic hormone shift after delivery.
Mm-hmm.
So there are baby blues and there is postpartum depression. They're very different. So if you're in that first couple of weeks and you're like, I just can't stop crying, it's normal. Give
Yeah.
yourself some grace and, take it day by day. And if you can't take it day by day, take it moment by moment.
Yeah. This is a strange fact, but you just made me think about it. I've had a lot of different babies. I've had two surrogacy journeys and I have four boys of my own. But every single time I've had a baby, whether it's mine or surrogacy, the second we would pull in from the first drive home from the hospital into the garage, I would cry. The second we hit the garage, and I don't know why.
Oh,
It was just like a weird, I don't know. I don't know why the garage was triggering, but
yeah.
every time it was. And then also I had a lot, maybe more, I think, baby blue tears.
Mm-hmm.
With my first surrogacy journey, she was born a few weeks earlier, whereas my firstborn was born almost like, he was 41 weeks and a day or two.
Oh
And
gosh.
so my brain said, well, I have a late baby. This baby's going to be late. And so I envisioned a full 40 weeks plus with this girl.
Oh.
And she came, I don't know what it was, 37, 38 weeks. And I was shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And so my brain felt like I was robbed of our little journey together, even though she was perfectly fine and healthy. But it was a weird little patch of kind of like sadness that I had um, dealing with that. It was interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And I think, it's important to talk about those things. Hey, you cry after you deliver a baby. That
Mm-hmm.
happens. I mean, it's pretty normal. Whether it's a
Yeah.
surrogacy baby or your baby, you're going to
Yeah.
cry, you're going to be sad, and you're also going to be happy. There's also going to be happy
Mm-hmm.
moments.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
What about intended parents when it comes to red flags? What would you have
Oh,
them be
yes.
mindful of?
Um, I think if you're an intended parent and you're finding that you have unrelentless anxiety about what is my surrogate doing? Is she actually eating what she's supposed to be eating? Is she, her contract said she wouldn't drink any purple sodas, and I don't know that she's not drinking purple sodas. Who knows what it is. If you start going through these spirals and you're sitting up at night wondering about it, you're stalking her Facebook to see if there's anything in the background of her photos, it's time to talk to someone, and that's okay. We understand this. This is not out of the ordinary.
No.
It's actually very understandable that you would feel this way, but there are healthier ways to manage it than that. And that's not doing anything. So if you're having a hard time with control and you're feeling like you want control but you have no control, there are ways to kind of regain that control feeling in a healthy manner. So really reaching out for someone like that. And if you're getting into the more exciting parts, the more happy milestones of your journey, like heartbeat confirmation or 16 weeks or 20 weeks, and you're not feeling excited and you're not feeling good, then yeah, you should probably reach out to somebody, because you could be dealing with a little bit of depression yourself. You could be having a hard time accepting that it's actually your reality, because for so long it hasn't been your reality and you've been wanting this and wanting this and wanting this, and you're afraid to get hopeful. You're afraid to allow yourself to feel that. Um, so yeah, if you're struggling with any of that, then absolutely reach out to someone, and hopefully you have an agency to help you. And if not, you're independent, then I didn't know who to reach out to, so I just went back to the person that did my consult, and she ended up being great.
Yeah. And I think it's important too, especially to people who have not ever received any form of mental health care. It may not be the first provider that you fall in love with. I think
Yeah,
it's, you just have to go and try it out. And if it doesn't feel like a great connection and that you can speak freely and openly without any kind of concern, then try a different provider till you get that
sure.
connection. Just like there's a match for everyone, there is a provider match
Yes,
out there for everyone as well. You just have
I
to
was
choose
just
the
gonna
right
say
one.
that. Yes. And finding a provider that is experienced with with this field, with
Yeah,
fertility
that'd
and
be even better.
surrogacy, that is great. And so there are tons of them out there, and they are intended parents themselves or surrogates
Hmm.
themselves, and they understand it. So
And
that is,
consider doing a televisit. That might broaden your abilities to find care in your area or not in your area who has this expertise.
yeah, absolutely. And not all of them take insurance, but you can always ask if they'll do a super bill, and take the super bill and submit it to your insurance for reimbursement.
Yeah, great idea. Asking for help is a strength, not a
Yes.
failure.
Yes,
Don't be
Kristie.
afraid. All right. I ask for help when it comes to mental health. I don't ask for help when it
Yeah.
comes to physical recovering for surgery help. That's what
When
she's
it
talking
comes to vacuuming her house, she won't ask for help.
about. Okay, now we are finally getting to the afterbirth delivery. So after delivery, we kind of talked about it a smidge already, so you don't have
Yeah.
to spend a whole lot of time here, but what could they experience for the surrogate and the intended parents when it comes to post-birth?
Oh man. I think overwhelming is just a great word for all parties to be
Yeah.
expected. I think it is overwhelming when you all of a sudden have a new baby, regardless of how prepared you are, regardless of how much you wanted it. All of a sudden, you have a new baby in your house, and it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
How do I feed this baby? What do I do? There's so many things to consider. Um, I think that there's excitement, there's relief, um, there's they you're gonna be tired. And I know that everybody loves to point out all those things whenever, you're expecting a baby, is how tired you're gonna be and how hard it's gonna be. But also, the newborn phase goes so stinking fast. And I
Mhm.
really wish people understood that. And I mean, I was told it 1,000 times. It goes so fast, it goes so fast. But like newborn, that
Yeah,
goes so fast.
it
You
does.
have every week they are a different baby. Every
Mm-hmm.
7 days, it's a new baby. And so
Mm-hmm.
you have to just soak up those 7 days. And just when you're struggling and you're like, this is so hard, just remember
It's gonna
in
end.
7 more days, it's going to be a
Yeah.
whole new ball game.
Yeah.
So,
So true.
um, with with surrogates, I think we talk about this all the time, but I will never stop saying it. We have all these surrogates who deliver, and then they have this, well, is that it? Wait, what now? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
happens now? What? It's just, we're just done. I mean, I got a text one day from a surrogate that said, is this it? We're over? Like, we're done?
We just walk away.
Yeah, like, what do we do from here? And,
You know,
you know,
sound dumb too, but I even struggle as a surrogate coordinator with the it's done feeling. I don't know if you feel that as the case manager, but like it's kind of hard for me to let go of these relationships that I've made with these surrogates because I'm like, well, we just spent, a year plus together talking almost daily, and now we're just supposed to part ways. And I mean, what is this?
yeah,
And so think about that amplified between you and your surrogate, you and your intended parents, especially if y'all had a healthy, communicative, great relationship. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, you're going to go be a parent now, and I'm
yeah,
just nothing, even though it's not what it is. It
yes,
feels
yes.
like that.
Yes. And you know what's really funny is my intended mom actually felt the same way. She was
Yeah.
like, she texted me one day and she said, I miss you. Like we became best friends. Like we would go to lunch together, and luckily we were local to each other, so we spent a lot of time together, and we did family dinners, and my kids would be at her house, and
Yeah.
our husbands had a bromance. It was a whole thing, but like truly we became this intertwined family. And then they had a baby. And also at the time it was COVID. And so they were being
Mm,
very careful,
yeah.
and they didn't want my kids around. Totally understandable. My kids
Sure.
went to school and had tons of germs. And she did. She called me one day and she was like, I just miss you. And I was like, I miss you. So, it can be really difficult because it's like this person that you grew to trust very quickly and became close with and talked to all the time. And then they just kind of dropped off. And same with your agency. Yeah, you don't really need anything after, all of the semantics have been done, the logistics of everything. But that doesn't mean we're not still here. You can text me
I mean, you're
anytime.
probably going to get a random, like, happy birthday, or how's your life
Yes.
going? Or, oh my gosh, I just saw you opened a brand new business in your
Yeah.
community. Like, I just think that's amazing for you, or
Yes.
anything, because I do. I feel connected with you for life, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to take it.
Yep. You're going to keep
um,
hearing from me.
mhm.
Yes.
So also, I saw you made a note on here for identity shift, and I really love that because I think that whether you're an intended parent or a surrogate or whatever, myself, like when I became a parent, I feel this in my bones, this identity shift. The person you were before becoming a parent, in whatever capacity you became a parent, it can change.
Yeah.
And I
It,
think that's
it
hard
will
for people.
change.
Yes, it will change. And I
Yeah.
think that it could be hard to accept the change. And I think you could be very taken aback and surprised by the change. And then your people and community around you who love you, watching you mold into the parent and your identity change.
Mhm.
And that's something that you might want to seek mental, support for,
Mhm.
because it doesn't mean the change is bad. And I'm not trying to say it is bad.
Right.
You're just gonna adapt to it,
Yep. Well, you
or
have to
understand
relearn who
why
you
it's happening.
Yeah, and you have to relearn who you are. Like you have
Yes.
to change and you don't actually know who you are fully anymore as a parent. And so you've got to work on that. That's something that
Hmm.
you have to give yourself that reintroduction of like, okay, let me tell you who we are now.
Yeah.
Um, and guess what? You're going to have a whole new slew of fears, and you're going to have a whole new, yeah, a whole new, I mean, it happens with me every age. My son just turned 12, and I'm like, the things I have to worry about now are
Hmm.
entirely different than what I have to worry about when he was 6. And
Absolutely.
so you're going to continue changing, and you might need help navigating that. And
Yeah.
sometimes when you go through this identity shift, you might have postpartum anxiety, or you might have anxiety that is like, oh my God, I'm can't let my child do anything because I fought so hard to get them here and now I'm afraid it's going to be taken from me. Like that can be really, really hard.
When I had my second, I went to therapy because I was struggling with the identity shift, the change of going from one child to two.
Yeah.
The age gap between my two children is 5 years. So I lived a solid 5 years as a single child household. And so bringing in the new kid, even though I wanted him, it was really an adjustment. And I did counseling. I even took my firstborn with me to be like, hey, I know he's 5, but hey, like how can we grow together to, you know, welcome this new member of the family? And some of our intended parents are, you know, expanding their family. And so that might be new emotions that they hadn't felt until it happens, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember going from one child to two. I was afraid that I wouldn't love my second kid as much as I loved my first, because how in the world can you love something again this much?
That
Like
much.
it's just not in my head. It wasn't possible. And
Sure.
yeah, it definitely, it can feel like a lot. It is a lot. And it's also okay to like, hey, I'm figuring this out, and make sure you're communicating that with the people in your life. Like, I'm still figuring this out. I am not sure who I am right now. And, you know, setting some boundaries, it's not a bad thing. Remember that a boundary is only for you. It's not for other people. You can't tell other people, hey, you can't do this to me. That's my boundary. No, a boundary is for you. Hey, if you continue doing this, I'm no longer going to come over. That's a boundary, because you are the one in control and you're removing yourself from that situation. So, you know, setting boundaries for yourself that keep you healthy and protect your space and protect your capacity is very, very important.
Yeah. And I think it's just important to always give grace to new parents during this learning time. When they're welcoming a new member into the family, everything just changes. Whether you've been in this position or not, just trying to extend grace can go a really long way while these individuals are figuring out what this new person, this new thing that they're having to care for 24/7 is doing and impacting in their life. And so even if they're changing or they're not responding to you quickly, give them grace.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great tidbit to take for yourself too. Give yourself grace. I think sometimes we need to remember that, hey, this might be your first time, this might be your fifth time. On either side, you might need some grace. And so if you wouldn't be that hard on a friend, you shouldn't be that hard on yourself.
Agreed.
Yeah.
What have you done to prepare emotionally for a surrogacy journey? So whether you're an intended parent or a surrogate, was there anything that you did prior to this journey or the journey you went on to feel most emotionally prepared to undergo it?
What did you do, Kristie?
Oh, I knew you were going to come back and ask me that. um, well, for those who don't know, like I learned about surrogacy when I was in high school, and I learned from 3 women in my life who were all surrogates growing up. And so when I really was at the point where I was like, this is going to happen, I'm, you know, at the age, I've had a child, etc., I've met the requirements, I did call 2 of those women and talk to them about their experiences and just asked a bunch of questions from what they went through and tried to prepare myself for the journey ahead. So I feel like that was one of the big steps that I took.
That's awesome. That's great. I definitely talked to one surrogate, and joined the Facebook groups, which I strongly advise against.
I don't know if they didn't exist or if I was just unaware, but I was not on any when I was doing my trainings a million years ago.
Yeah, I joined the Facebook
They might have been there, but I may
groups,
not have been that cool.
and I was like, oh, this is going to be great to learn all about this. And I asked my first question and was mutilated. I mean, I was
Jerry, you
told
want
I
to
was
know
so
things.
dumb and what was wrong with me. And I was like, well, apparently this isn't for me.
Yeah, those groups are something. I will say at Family Choice, we have our own private support page, and it is very kind.
We do. It's very kind. And if it's not, then Bouncer
There will
Mariah
be
is
problems.
coming in there.
Yes.
Because we don't do that. It's 2025. Mean girl mentality is out.
Out. Did anyone feel something unexpected during or after the process? So mentally, emotionally unexpected that you weren't ready for?
It's a good question.
I mean, I guess kind of back to my story earlier, I wasn't prepared to have felt like the journey had ended sooner,
Hmm.
feeling. My next journey, I carried twins and we had a scheduled C-section. So for the
Hmm.
longest time, I had come to grips with that timeline of that journey. So I didn't have that same kind of feeling as I did with the first one. Um, but both, when the journeys were done, like you talked about, what's now, what's next, what am I doing? That feelings for sure arose.
Hmm. I I think that's such a common one. I mean, I definitely had that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say I unexpectedly have, I mean, I shouldn't say unexpectedly. I knew that I wasn't gonna be attached to the baby.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect to sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, it's about to be August. She was born in August. What day was she born? I completely forgot. What day was
Yeah.
it? Oh, it was the 15th. That's right. Like I completely forget sometimes, or sometimes when I go to the doctor and they're like, oh, how many babies have you had? And I'm like, oh, two,
Oh,
three. I've
wait.
had three babies. And I think sometimes it's just, I didn't expect to not feel so like when I see her, I care about her, of course, and like
100%.
she's adorable.
Yes.
And I love that family, like, an extension of my family, but
Hmm.
I just genuinely don't feel any sort of like
It's
strong
different.
feelings.
Yeah, it is just different. And I truly have always categorized it as I care for the three children that I've brought in the world via surrogacy, like I would my nieces, nephews, best friends, babies.
Mhm. Yeah,
Like I
exactly.
love them. I know a lot of facts about them. May not know all the little details and nuances that
Yes.
I know about my four boys, but
Yes.
strong love, but in a completely different way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's just different. So I think like I knew I wasn't going to be attached. I just didn't expect it to be so
Different.
unattached. Yeah,
Sure.
different.
And I wouldn't even say it's unattached. I don't know. I don't like that
Yeah.
word. And then,
Yeah,
but
that's
yeah.
true. That's true. Because I
It's
mean,
a different attachment.
yeah. You know what gets me really emotional is when I see my kids with her.
Mm,
And they like love each other. It's so
sure.
cute. And she is obsessed with my oldest,
Mm,
who's a boy and like 11 years older than her, or 10 years
that's
older
so
than her,
sweet.
sorry. And it's so funny because she just thinks he's the coolest thing in the world. And I'm like, it's so cute. Yeah.
I love that. But we have so much enjoy tonight, and we appreciate you
Yes.
tuning in and, expressing interest in what is mental health and how it affects the surrogacy journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, obviously this is a soft spot for me, and I really believe that both sides need mental health support. If your agency has a mental health person on staff, that's great that they can kind of help you with. If not, I can guarantee you that they have somebody that they can refer out to. And reach out for the help when you need it, because especially in the pregnancy phase, if you're an intended parent, once baby's there, you're going to prioritize yourself last. It's just what happens. So get the help and reach out while you can and you have the time, because you matter, and it matters that you're in a great place going into parenthood.
I agree. Thanks for closing us out, Mariah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is Surrogacy Unwrapped. I love doing this.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.